Welcome to the Pharos Fit podcast, where we help you to explore your capacity to move better, push further, and achieve your limitless potential through fitness, nutrition, recovery, and lifestyle. Hey guys, welcome back to the Pharos Fit podcast. Great to be back with you guys. Since we last spoke, I had a kid, a little baby. I'm here with Brandon, my producer. Hey Brandon.
Did Mike out? What's up, Feet?
He's in the background. He's all right. He's got no mic, but it's fine. You know who he is. So it's been a pretty interesting time. Not a lot of sleep. He's eating like a horse, and he's growing every day, which is great, super healthy. So today, I've got a really interesting podcast to talk about. We're going to be talking about figure competing and what's involved in the sport of figure competing, how to train for it, how to eat for it, the mindset involved, and kind of the future of the sport. I think it's a really interesting topic right now, as it fits within the fitness industry and also as it fits within the bodybuilding specific community. So I want to get into a lot of that. I'm here with two professional bodybuilders, Holly Covell and Sean Covell, who happen to be my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. So this is a real family affair in here today.
That's right.
Hey, Holly.
Yes, hi. Thank you
Sean.
for doing this.
Very, very nice to be here. Thank you so much for having us. And congratulations to my new nephew.
Yeah,
Woo.
thank you. He's a good boy.
Sweet little guy.
If you haven't already, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. And please tell your friends about the podcast. Obviously, we're trying to reach out to as many people as we possibly can about this stuff. So as much as you can share, we appreciate it. And without further ado, we will kind of crack on into this. Let's just start with, a lot of people may not even know what figure is or where it fits within the whole, spectrum of fitness. So why don't you guys just kind of talk a little bit about what figure is and what it really means to be a figure competitor?
Got it. I guess I will take that one. So in the sport of bodybuilding, there's different, the basic way I kind of break it down for people who don't really understand the sport is what I do, which is figure, is sort of like girly ladies with muscle.
Right.
Lower level of that is bikini, like the sexiest girl on the beach, six-pack abs,
Right.
rockin' glutes, that kind of thing. And then above figure is like the beefy ladies, like the ones that get really shredded, a lot of muscle. You still want to maintain that femininity, but it's definitely the harder scale
It's
to
a harder
reach.
look. Yeah.
A harder look.
Every division in bodybuilding requires a different look.
Right.
That's what the judges are looking for, and that's how the classification of the division is designed. That's how it's described to the competitors. So yeah, figure it's bikini, which is firm, very curvy, very pretty. A lot of, their posing is awesome. It's very much
Right.
about their presentation. Figure, Holly's posing is awesome. It's less emphasis on that and more about
Muscle tonality.
Exactly, yeah.
Muscle separation,
Right.
but not striated
Striation,
muscle.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So you want to see the separate muscles on the body, but they should not be quote unquote shredded.
Right.
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 And is there a category above figure now, or is that
It's called women's physique. So
it's
those
called
are the
women's
really
physique.
And
right.
women's bodybuilding.
And
is
actually,
back,
yeah, they brought back women's bodybuilding, which is
Oh, they did.
Yeah, there's a lot
this
of things
year.
that have happened in the sport specifically this year,
Mhm.
even in the last 6 months. So there's for all the women, and there's a wellness division that's coming
Yeah,
too. There's a
starting
brand
now.
new division that they're going to debut also.
Right.
So I was having this conversation a while back. If you want to know kind of what the new category is going to be, you look at what group fit classes are really popular.
Right.
Right. So, Holly's division is kind of and I don't know if she would agree with this, it's kind of like what the figure division is, what women's bodybuilding used to be.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So very feminine look, but muscular, lean, not too lean, not shredded, not too beefy, feminine. Pete, you've mentioned Linda Hamilton, right? Terminator 2. That is a very good way just for your average person to think about,
Right.
what would a figure girl look? Go watch Terminator 2. That's Linda Hamilton. She's jacked. She's doing pull-ups. G.I. Jane is another one. So that
Yes.
is more
Action heroes, right?
Action
Yeah.
heroes, yeah. So that's a figure, right? So that's kind of what that is.
But also, I have to interject, like Rachel McClish, 80s,
but that's the 70s aerobics.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So
it's
like
the
that's what I'm saying.
classes,
Like
yeah.
that's what I look at. Like that's kind of what figure is to me. It's
Right.
It's
And
the
now,
ladies with muscle, but they're super feminine and girly.
exactly. And now there's so many more athletics that women are into, right? So there's so many new things, and how many women are in CrossFit? But I
Yeah.
mean, look, if you were to look at a CrossFit class, it's not uncommon to see mostly women
Sure.
in CrossFit. So because of that, there's this new wellness division. What is that? Again, they're looking for a lot of CrossFit ladies. What do we do? You tell us. What do you do in CrossFit? A lot of.
Well, a lot of squats, a lot of deadlifts, and it's interesting because a specific physique has been created by the sport of CrossFit.
If you
and
look
such
at
things.
on the street, you know a CrossFitter.
Yeah,
You know a CrossFitter.
yeah, it's a very specific thing.
Where do
Yeah.
they fit into the bodybuilding thing? Well, now we have like men's physique. A lot of men's physique guys do bodybuilding mixed with CrossFit, as a
Right.
way to do their cardio.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to do a lot of the things, that, especially for the leg work that other people would have to do. So they can get away with doing HIIT style training and not worry about their quad size going down. That's one of the first things, even in figure too. The leg size is one of the very first things to, kind of shrink in. But that look you're talking about, that CrossFit look, is now what is going to be the women's wellness division in
Wow.
IFBB. So where would a CrossFit lady fit in? They're trying to create a division for
Yes,
that.
exactly.
And you guys
So-
think that's going to be a popular division?
I do.
I think, yeah.
Do you think? I mean, you look at how many ladies do CrossFit and are muscular but very feminine, but they're doing these movements over and over, squatting, deadlifting. What does that build? You and I have talked about this before, Pete. It's like we tell people, you lift weights and you're not going to get bulky, and that is true. But any movement you do heavy over and over and over again for high volume is going to change your physique.
For sure.
So, that is the reality of it. And the other reality, and I think Holly would comment on this better, is that I think that women like it and they feel empowered lifting those weights.
100%.
And there should be a division for that that's clearly defined. So that, you kind of hinted at, and we'll get to this later, is where is it gonna go? And they're thinking about this too. The sport of bodybuilding, like every sport, has to evolve, and it has to evolve based on the athletes that are doing the sport, and a lot of athletes that want to get into physique sports, because we're talking about physique sports. We're talking about looking good on stage with minimal clothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're looking, and that's what it is. We're talking about posing. We're talking about, what Arnold called creating art with your body. At the end of the day, we're all trying to be artists on stage,
And I like the idea of it, like narrowing the gap between bodybuilding and CrossFit, because for the longest time it was kind of like they were on opposite ends of the
We
spectrum.
hated each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, hated
Yes.
each other.
There's like
Hated
a
each
divide.
other,
Yeah.
But I like that.
I mean, you've
that
danced in
narrowing.
both worlds, though.
Yeah, I dabble in
Yeah.
both worlds, and I enjoy both. So for me it's a good thing, and I think it's an interesting. I think it gives a lot of women like something else to be involved in, as opposed to like having to choose like one thing or the other, or feeling like they're excluded from one thing. It gives them an opportunity to express themselves in both of those sports, which can only be a positive thing.
Definitely.
I think so too. The question is then, like, with all these divisions, Holly, where do you think there's any like bleed over between? The problem is, when you get too many choices on a menu, how many things look like the other thing on the menu, right? Like how many sushi rolls taste exactly the same? It's like bleeding over. Where's the difference?
Yeah.
Where'd you draw the line?
So
Yeah.
where, I'm just curious, because we haven't really talked about this since you competed last night. Like, where do you see the women's division going? I'm just curious. Like, what do you think is going to be the most popular division? Because at one time, fitness was a huge division. It died down its back massively. And we're gym owners. We saw Zumba go way up high and come down, and now it's kind of, and then spinning for a long time. Spinning's back. So things kind of cycle through. Where do you see, the women's physiques?
I honestly think wellness is going to be huge.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, bikini is already huge because it's sort of
Bikini's
like
huge.
the entry level, and I don't mean it to like sound dumbed down. Like what the girls do is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mad respect. But that's sort of like the entry level. Like most girls are like, oh, I want to try to compete.
I think it's the
They
entry
go-
level to muscularity, right?
Yes. And you don't have to get as lean or shredded. So I
right,
feel like
right.
most girls go in that way. I feel like a lot are going to go into wellness. I think it's going to blow up, honestly.
There's a lot of
Because-
CrossFit girls. I mean, Pete, at your club here, there's a lot of very, very, very famous CrossFitters that could step on stage.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And the well,
Yeah.
I
Like
mean, I
Brooke
even think
Ents
of,
right now would just
crush it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's exactly who I thought of. And there's a lot of other people. I can look out the door right now. And be
Yeah.
like, you could walk on stage right now.
Mhm.
So based on what I've seen, that's gonna be a very, very popular division. My concern is that you're starting to see a lot of people do divisions based on certain criteria that's given to us as athletes, right?
Mhm.
Like Holly's a figure pro, I'm a classic physique pro. What does that mean? That's bodybuilding. So based on my height, I can come in at a certain weight, right? Back in Arnold's time, it was over 200 pounds and under 200 pounds. And, pumping iron, Arnold was the over 200 pound winner. Franco was the under 200 pound winner. They went at it. Instead of doing that, if you were to ask most bodybuilders, I think they would be divided probably 50-50. They would, it's going to get real here on your podcast for a second. So hopefully I don't ruffle too many feathers. There are some purists that say it should just be bodybuilding and it's bodybuilding, and then there are people that said we should welcome all these different physiques. And I agree with both of those to a certain extent. I think that bodybuilding should be bodybuilding, and these other divisions should be judged how the criteria is for these other divisions. My concern is when you get too many divisions, the judging panel, like, we're all human, and a lot of times these judges had just seen bodybuilders on stage, and now they're seeing bikini girls on stage. So if you just rewarded somebody for being very muscular, very diced, are you going to reward the bikini girl that's muscular and diced?
Right.
The answer should be no. And to be honest, like a lot of people complain about it, the judges do a great job. They get it right most of the time. It's not an easy job. Sometimes you got 50 people all lined up.
50 most
Yeah.
beautiful women in the
Hey,
world, and they
Pete,
look.
all out of all of these women, who's the best looking
These
one?
are all
It's like,
Victoria's
oh,
Secret
okay.
models. Which one's the best?
But I mean, the judges are trained. Like, judges go through a training thing. My hope is that it reinforces, these are the figure standards. Maybe have judges that only do different divisions. Only have a panel of figure judges. Only have a panel. And I know that sounds
specific
weird.
to that each division.
It sounds weird, but how can you be a professional in
How can you be
seven
an
different
expert at
things?
everything? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, are mistakes made? Yes. Are we learning what these different divisions are? I mean, Holly, you remember the very first bikini show we were at. It's 2009 in San Francisco. Our friend Craig was competing in middleweights. Do you remember that?
Yes.
What was it like? I mean,
It was awful.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
terrible.
It was awful because of the way the crowd treated the women.
Really?
They did
So
not
bad.
treat them like the rest of the competitors on stage. They were hooting and hollering
Yeah.
and whistling at the girls, and it was not as quote unquote respectable.
It wasn't
Right.
or
professional.
respected is what I mean.
Right.
It was not as respected then as it is now.
But now you look at it and it's one of the most respected divisions.
Right.
The girls are beautiful, and their thing is, a lot of this is, bodybuilding is a business too. The promoters put on these shows and expect to make money. They want, people in the seat. So for them, who's going to bring that in, right? So now we get into, okay, are we going to allow these more divisions to come in? And the answer so far for promoters has been yes, of course. Let these people compete. The problem is, like, sometimes the shows are running 4 or 5 hours
Yeah, it's
long.
got to get
like,
to a point where it's like too
yeah,
much.
so I guess my answer would be, as much as I love all the new stuff, like anything, like any progress, we need to probably step back and see what we're really dealing with, because we
Maybe
don't really
refine.
know. Yeah, we don't really know where it's going. We've gotten, for instance, we have so many, shows, but we have less pro shows in the United States now anyway. Overseas there's a lot, which is great. So it's really kind of opened up. But like our friend John, who's in open bodybuilding, there's way less open shows to qualify for
Right.
the Olympia. Why? Because you can have 40 bikini competitors and you're going to get that. They're all vying for that Olympia qualification and they're all going to bring 2, 3, 4 people. You know what I mean? So there's a money aspect to it too. And I just want the quality to maintain its standard while the growth happens. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah, of course.
You know, as you scale up anything, because bodybuilding is growing. Now let's define bodybuilding, right? Let's define.
Right.
I mean, we use the term
broadly
bodybuilding. It's if you're a human and you lift weights and you care about your physique, you're a bodybuilder. That's what I tell people.
Right.
Right. So, you know, as far as competing on stage, you know, that's a whole nother thing. That's, you know, really where it comes into the whole discipline and the grind, and, you know, that's the mental aspect and everything else. And that's really what we hope as pros that we get rewarded for, right? All this energy that we put in and the look according to what it's supposed to be, you know, that we put in.
Yeah, and I think, you know, specifically with bodybuilding, there seems to be a lot that you guys have to put into it, both, you know, in terms of energy and in terms of financially, for not that much of a reward at the end of the day. And how do you compute that, like, in your mind? Like, how do you deal with that? Like, why is it worth it? Why is competing worth it to you when you don't get that much out of it at the end?
Well, for me personally, my story is that I have 2 children, 7 and 5, and we've been running our gyms up in Northern California for 10 plus years. So I was always, I mean, when we met in high school, I was soft and I weighed more than I do right this moment, having just competed. And so I was never like in bad shape, but I never like 100% loved my body. Like, oh my God.
Holly always thought she was a pear shaped.
Yeah.
And we would go to the mall and we would go to specific clothing stores for pear shaped.
Like, I need the high-waisted jeans.
Yeah. And that's
accentuate.
You know, that's a thing. In back to your story, like a lot of us think that we're this certain thing.
Right.
And we tell ourselves this story, and it's not that way, because you are anything but a pear shape now.
For sure.
You're a figure, you know, like statuesque.
And that was
you're an X frame. You have a
Yeah.
tiny little waist. You have the tiniest waist on stage. So
What you're saying is that you found the competing to give you more of a sense of purpose.
I think,
training?
I mean, because Sean competed, when was the first one? 2008, when we were we were engaged. And I fell in love with watching the sport because I'd seen him do it. And I'm like, oh, there's my baby up there. This is great. And so I had been to a few more shows, and then we started going to them just as spectators and to see other friends, because we have a few that compete. And I loved going to the shows. I like watching all the physiques.
You love judging
I love
shows too. Yeah.
I love judging. I love judging from the audience and giving my opinion, and I'm pretty good at it. And so after having the kids and sort of reaching that point, I remember we got into a fight one day because I'm like, do I look fat? And you're like, you're just asking me, like, you're goading me into saying you're not fat or something. It was just ridiculous.
I'm sure every man has had this conversation.
Right, no, and it was totally me. Like, I was acting idiotic, but in that moment, I'm like, oh, I'm so dumpy. So And
you were training at this point or not?
I mean,
we were training,
working out. Yeah, I mean, ever since 2009 when we took over the gyms, I was working out, but never really dedicated. Exactly. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm fit. I can lift
There's
20s.
another level of, and this is like really what it comes down to. There's another level of discipline that it takes. And I think we secretly want to test ourselves. When you get to a certain level, you want to test yourself. And at the end of the day, that's what makes it worth it. Even if you're dumping, you're testing. You don't know what you're made out of, you know, and that's the thing. It's competition. And I think we all like judging. Is maybe messed up as it is. We love seeing where we stand in the hierarchy of things. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So I did that my first show in 2017 in April. He and I trained to do one together because I'd always wanted to do it. I thought I was going to do bikini, thinking that was sort of like the entry level into the sport, because I didn't think I had enough muscle to compete in figure. And I decided I was not sexy enough to just like strut my shit on stage. Like, I feel like I don't have that.
The bikini girls, it takes a lot of swag.
You need good stage presence.
The physique guys too, very much.
But also, like, I mean, I've trained with you. I know how, like, you're just insanely strong.
Now I am. Yeah.
Right. Right, but you don't think you're always strong? You think that's
Oh God, no, he can attest to that. Like, no.
But it's interesting, like, because for the short amount of time relatively that you have been training that hard, like, you're insanely strong. So there must be some kind of genetic.
Do you want to know the secret? All right, here's the secret right here. Everyone's waiting for the secret, and I'm going to give it to you. When Holly stepped on stage, something lit up in her, and she got instantly stronger overnight.
So is it a mental?
It was a mental
100%.
block.
So,
Holly was twice as strong as she thought she was the entire time, and I think that is applicable to almost everybody.
Yeah, and let's segue this into kind of like a training program.
Yeah.
So as you're preparing for a show, what does your week look like? You're training every day?
It depends on how far out you are. So this prep was about 14 weeks total, which is fairly typical. I mean, I did my first one. I did my first one in about 9 weeks.
Yeah. One quick note on, because this is what everyone wants to know. Like, how many weeks out should I start prep?
Right.
How many this? And the answer is, you want to be as high calorically, taking in as many calories as possible while still seeing muscle separation. Then you start prep, right? So a lot of people are eating under their calories, and then they start prep and they've got nowhere to go, and they just crash.
Yeah.
So how many weeks out, and Holly will talk about this, it depends on where you are with your training, where you are with your nutrition, where you are in your life. Did you just have a kid? You're not sleeping, you're not recovering. Pete, if you were to do a show, I know you've got all the bodybuilding stuff coming in. I'm stoked about that. It's going to be a great little gym. But when you're ready for your first show, you're going to want to be in a position where you're able to sleep 8 hours a night.
For sure.
And
So
take naps
this was a 14.
So this was 14. So as far as training, for the most part, we kept weightlifting to about 5 days a week. I don't think we did more than that. We were really good about giving me more rest days, which I think
we did at least 2 rest days this week.
Yeah.
Or this week, every week.
Yeah.
And one day I gave her a complete rest day.
Right.
Week. Yeah.
So the other part,
no cardio.
right. The other part is that I would do 6 to 7 days of fasted cardio in the morning.
Right.
And then...
And how long is that fasted cardio? Like 30 minutes?
That also fluctuates as much as the diet does. So from the beginning, maybe 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes post-workout, which could mean anything. It could mean last thing at night, whatever works best for our schedule.
Let me say this too. Like, Holly did a lot less cardio this time than she had previous shows. Cardio, everyone wants to know how much cardio to do to get shredded. And cardio is one of the levers that you can pull to adjust your metabolism. It's not the first lever you should pull, because once you pull that lever, you have nowhere to go. If you start off, if you're doing an hour of cardio a day, if you go into prep already doing an hour of cardio a day, your thyroid is just going to shut down when you got to crank it up to 90 minutes or something like that.
That's the problem with a lot of people, right? A lot of people make that mistake.
We have a friend of ours.
Do you want to get into that?
That's endless cardio, no carbs.
Exactly. Like doing 2 hours a day, our friend. So
there's a fine line. Like, you want to do everything at the end of the day, for health and fitness. That's what the industry that we're in, health and fitness.
Exactly.
And, that's the thing, is you want your prep to be... And I think Holly will tell you, this prep was much more comfortable than the last ones. And as much as you can make it comfortable on your body, I'm not saying train comfortable.
Yeah,
I'm saying
I know what you mean.
When you train hard, you're also recovering hard. Yeah. Everything you do, you're like a barbell. You put one plate on one side of the barbell, that's training. You have to recover the same amount at the other side of the barbell, right?
So you've got your 5 days in a week. So is that one muscle group per week, or are you training?
For my division, there's certain things that they're looking for. They want good quad separation, but also shoulders and upper back width is like key in figure. Like, they want to see the width up top, tiny waist, and then
sometimes tiny waist they want to see it. They
should.
should.
And then good legs. So for me, back and shoulders were usually twice a week. We would do like back Monday, shoulders Tuesday, legs Wednesday, Thursday arms, and then kind of do a little bit more back and shoulder touch-ups later in the week after I've recovered for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Whatever I wanted to build up, we would hit a couple times.
Yeah.
That's true for prep, but for our off season, we only hit everything once.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So we did a lot more like Dorian style training where we did 1 to 2 warm-up sets. And can women train this way? The answer is yes. Women can train in every way that a man can train. You know, is it always good to do that? I mean, if you're deadlifting, 400 pounds off the ground, you're going to get a blocky waist. So my answer to that for physique sports is no. There's certain movements you shouldn't do, and it's not worth it. But women can train very, very hard. And I think Holly made a lot of gains. I mean, we came in 10 pounds heavier this show than we did the last show with better conditioning. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And we fed you more than we ever have. Yeah. And we train. And I think a lot of that is because you gain so much in the off season by focusing on one body part, really annihilating it and then recovering it.
And eating.
Yeah. Because we used to train everything 2 or 3 times a week when we first started working out together. And now the evolution of that has been, and I think it's probably aging too. You can't train the same as you did when you were 18 years old, right? You just can't do it.
Let's talk a bit about that, the nutrition from the nutritional side. So when you started your cycle, you were eating how many calories per day, would you say, and what did that come down to?
We were always calories. We don't really count calories as much. It's what is bodybuilding? It's like 6 to 7 meals a day, right? You're getting, most of your meals were 4 ounces of protein, 90 grams of rice, which is, 30 something grams of carbs maybe, and, some veggie. And it's simple. That's the staple, to fuel you through those workouts. And fats, she was always above 2,000 calories. Always in her off season. She was never below that. And we didn't, if anything, we probably increased calories going into this prep, a lot, because Holly gets to the point where, and I do this too, your metabolism reaches a certain point to where you actually need to feed it to keep going, or your metabolic rate is going to shut down. Right. Sure. You're taking in such little calories that your thyroid is not performing. Another big thing is the nutrients. Like, we salt all of our food with iodized salt. Why? Because Holly's doing 6 days of fasted cardio, and 5, sometimes 6 days of hard weight training. And then sometimes we'll do a second session of cardio, at night. So we can go up to an hour. We never did more than an hour of cardio, this time. And, as far as calories, I think it depends. Your body reaches a certain point where you almost have to feed it to keep it. Sure. And that's where a lot of people, in bodybuilding, it's, oh, I came in, too full, which is spilling over. You ate too much. You weren't, in shape. Or I came in flat. What that really is you didn't really give yourself the nutrients, the electrolytes, the carbohydrates, the water even that you need to fill out and look good on stage. So, and a lot of that is just from not eating enough food. You don't eat enough food, on stage, your muscles don't pop and it doesn't press up against the skin. So you look fat. Yeah. Actually, it's weird. It's a weird thing. You can not eat enough and look fat, and I know we call that like kind of skinny fat. And that's the bodybuilder's worst dream is you just wash away. Yeah, that happened to me this year. You just wash away and you just flatten out. So, keeping your calories high is really, really important. Eating every 3 hours is really important.
And then at what stage did you start cutting back on the calories? Like 2 weeks out, or?
Every week we kind of chip away a tiny bit, like depending on the progress for the week. Like, okay, we need to start tightening up a little bit. So let's cut back the carbs at meal 4.
Yeah, but we would only pull one variable.
Exactly. It was very, very minute changes, like a little less rice at these meals.
Got it. And your protein would always be high, right?
Yeah, protein's, I don't think protein changed at all.
The only time protein really changes is a couple of days before the show. Exactly. Because it's not as important to take in. Yeah. You want to keep your stomach flat. You don't want to pound a 48-ounce T-bone steak, and look like you ate a cow. A lot of people do this, by the way, like just food load. And you're going to look really full, but your gut's going to stick out on stage. So, that happens a lot. you don't need as much protein, especially like the day of the show.
Right, 'cause you don't need to recover as much.
You just don't. So protein is high for sure. In the off season, we pull back on the protein. I think that's important. Like taking in high amounts of protein throughout
all the time.
year.
Takes a lot of time on the liver. All that
yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
stuff,
the thing is, you're getting a lot of amino acids. You're getting methionine, and too much certain amino acids without other ones to balance it out. Nothing in excess is good, right?
So you as a competitor, Holly and Sean, you both answered this question. How does it affect your mindset? And I mean this kind of from, we talked about it giving you purpose, like being a competitive athlete gives you a sense of purpose. Does it also give you a sense of like anxiety? Does it give you a sense of like, why the fuck am I doing this? Do I want to do this anymore?
Emotions, just like that, yeah.
Like how does it affect you on a kind of daily, weekly, monthly, yearly
I mean,
basis?
it's definitely a roller coaster of emotions. So after that first show, when I got second, and I was thrilled with that. I'm like, I had 2 kids, and this is the first time I've ever stood on stage in my underwear in front of thousands of people.
So proud of you.
And I have never felt more proud of myself, and like I fucking did that after having kids. This is crazy. So fell in love with the sport and continued to go, but every prep is different, and there's definitely days. I mean, this one was pretty good. I think overall it was great.
We've learned a lot.
Preps in the past, you have these moments where you're so depleted food wise. You're doing hour of cardio every day plus 45 minutes of training where you are like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, like this is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like what? Why? And just in the course of doing,
it's worth mentioning too.
You're up and down constantly.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. You're up and down because your hormones are up and down because your nutrient, your training, everything is changing. Your body doesn't want to do what you want to make it do. So bodybuilding and physique sports is really the mastery of like your mind over your body. It's making 100%. Yeah, and that's why I love bodybuilding. I love using my mind to tell my body what I want it to do, and my body going no, and my mind going no, you're going to do it anyway. And right, you're going to grow because I'm going to force you to grow. Exactly. You're defying biology.
Then, like Pete, you're saying that I'm really strong now. It's because I got into that mindset, especially I think in this last off season and this prep where something clicked, and it's suddenly like I'm not afraid of that weight anymore. I used to be so afraid, like, oh, I'm a girl, I shouldn't go above the 20 pounds. And now I'll go up to the 50s and do some chest presses and stuff because I don't like that. The number doesn't scare me anymore. Fear,
a couple of things on that too, like especially not to cut you off, sorry, but especially for women, do not be afraid of the weights, right? And the other thing, again, relating to women is like, there's a lot of like shame culture going on, like fat shaming and stuff. But the truth is it goes both ways too. Like Holly did her first show not to become a pro, right? Not to do photo shoots, not to put stuff on Instagram. But she just said that she felt the most proud she ever has because she was standing on her underwear in stage, and like there, as much as fat shaming there is, and it's terrible, there is fit shaming too, 100%. And like, I think we need to disperse with that as much as in the other way. It's like what makes you proud is controlling your body, right? You're controlling your look. You're taking control of your life.
Well, and also what gives you self-respect is more important than anything else.
For sure. Yeah. And that self-respect is
everything.
Everything.
But there was a page, I don't even remember what it was, but after my first show, there was some bodybuilding page that reposted my transformation of like having, or like the beginning of the prep or something, and then what I looked like the day before.
And that's not a realistic thing either. The day before you're all depleted, no water.
But I was so proud of that shot. And then there's people commenting like, oh my God, that's ugly. Like she is not female. I'm like, excuse me? But I'm like, well, I'm proud of this shit. So like definitely fit shaming for sure. Like, oh, she's gross. She's got muscle. I'm like,
yeah, and actually, it's a really interesting thing for me because
you take off your shirt in the gym and people shame you. He's a CrossFitters,
but
how do you know when you're in a CrossFit gym? None of the guys are wearing shirts. There you go.
It's true. But also, like on the stuff that I've done, like kind of in movies and the Hollywood stuff, and like people talk about like yeah, we believe in strong women, and they try and get behind the whole strong women movement. But then there's a point where they say,
but not
that
too strong.
Yeah, not too strong. And it's like, it's a very, interesting place to.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm curious about this. Because on film, muscle looks even more muscular. For
sure.
Right?
Lean looks big on camera.
Exactly, yeah. So when you're training people, what is the look that you bring them down to? Because if you were to bring, anybody down to like a figure, they would look almost too big on film, right?
For sure.
So here we go. Like, this has a lot to do with it. What we are used to seeing is, the women on film, and they're really not that big. Would you agree? I mean, you see these CrossFit chicks or like a bodybuilder or a figure girl or even a bikini girl. And you're like, whoa.
Well, I think actually, like,
do you think it's because it doesn't look good on camera?
No, I just think people aren't ready for it. I think like Wonder Woman was the first time I think you saw on screen women like that, that looked like that could do that kind of stuff, and it was like, I mean, I thought it was super impressive, and I think that most people like really enjoyed it. But even then, I think there were people within the industry who were like, "That's too much," and it's like it's not too much. It's like this is a reality,
right?
But I think a lot of people don't.
Why do you think stuff like? I'm sorry, I'm picking your brain on your own podcast. Why do you think films like Pumping Iron are so popular? I mean, no one admits that it's popular, but it's popular. You see these things on Netflix and all these muscle documentaries come out. And people like it, and people always Charles Atlas, and, Arnold. Yeah, they're freaks, but we like it, right? And all these Hollywood guys. It's interesting how muscularity has changed, like our action movies, right? But if we talk a lot about who's our action heroes now, and it's like John Wick and The Rock and stuff. But the thing is about those guys is like they're kind of hardcore into what they're doing, and it kind of embracing, especially The Rock. He's a bodybuilder. We mentioned the other day who's the most popular bodybuilder on the planet. It's The Rock, for sure. And so that's the thing, is it's not too much. Maybe The Rock is 6'4", 240 pounds. He gets bigger than that. And it's like, that's a big guy, and he's also sells the most movie tickets, right? So it's like we've always been kind of obsessed with, as a culture, especially American culture, these things that are not exactly normal. It's a girl. It's a girl with big shoulders. And then we ask ourselves, is that right? Is that sexy? She thinks it's sexy. So what you think is irrelevant. So now the question is, how do you even get to the point where is it too much? And I think that's relative based on everything. That's what we were talking about, the divisions earlier. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's too much for figure. It's too much for bikini. It's too much for classic physique. It's too much for this.
It's all an opinion, and it unfortunately it depends on how much power that opinion has. And sometimes the people with the most power have the worst opinions.
Yeah.
So
not everyone has a good opinion.
No one has a good opinion. No one has a fair opinion. And unfortunately, sometimes, like I said, the people making the decisions at the top have a very kind of like warped view.
Going back to the the mental aspect, and I know Holly will tell you this too, and you can talk about like me after New York if you want. Not only do you ask yourself, I don't get paid to do this, why am I doing this? I've got kids, should I be taking care of them? I haven't called my friend back in 3 days. All these things, you play this, should I do this? Is it a waste of my time game? Now you do the show, you're super happy with how you look, you really crushed it, and you don't do as well as you wanted to. So now that's just the icing on the cake, and not only can you get into a mental spiral before, because as much as it is disciplining your body, it's really disciplining your mind, right? The story you tell yourself after your bad placing can really send you off the rails.
I think you have to just remind yourself why you did it in the first place. Right, and it's a really hard thing to do, but remind yourself, I didn't do it for a trophy. I didn't do it for the money. I did it for self-respect. Exactly. I did it to challenge myself and to step on stage looking in the way that I want to look and being the person that I want to be.
Yeah. But the problem is then, okay, well, now you're a professional athlete.
Yeah.
And you're not getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
And now you didn't place that well. And now,
But I don't think-
I'll be honest, that is something that every professional bodybuilder faces. It's how am I going to pay the rent? You know, you have to set yourself up in business either alongside your bodybuilding career or prior to. Remember Arnold. You know, Arnold was laying bricks before he won the Olympia. You know, before he was a millionaire, you know, in the movies, he was a millionaire from owning apartment complexes. So even Arnold, you know, arguably the greatest bodybuilder ever, definitely the most well-known ever, you know, set themselves up. And today that's really hard for people. Everyone's got, you know, an Instagram account. They're feeding that. And a lot of the bodybuilding is, you know, it was a media sport. It was started as a media sport. The muscle mags, the videos, you know, and because media has changed, I think bodybuilding has changed because of that. It's evolving, and we're certainly in the middle of something. What do you think, Holly? I don't know.
Sorry, I was on the mindset thing. Like,
What do you think?
Like you're saying,
you've had some losses too.
I have, but so, you know, looking at yesterday, I placed in like the middle of my group. Like,
middle.
You know, I didn't do great. I wasn't last. And right now at this moment, like after yesterday and seeing my stage shots, and then after doing the photo shoot I just did, I feel like this is gonna sound bad. I feel perfect right now for me. And I turned 33 last week, and I have 2 children. Like, I would have never guessed years ago that this is where I would be at 33 with 2 kids. I am like cloud 9 for a solid month or 2 right now. I didn't play. I would have loved to place higher, of course, but
I'll say this too. We also have businesses.
I know.
You know, that's the thing is like, we're not doing it to make money, but some people are doing it to make money. And when I talk about like the mindset thing, imagine, you know, you're gunning for the top 10 at the Olympia, and you know, hey, if I get that, at least that top 10, you know, you've already had to win a show to get there. You're spent all year, you know, if you have a sponsor, if you're lucky enough to have a sponsor, you've been training and not working another job, and you don't make that top 10, you don't get paid.
Right.
And you paid to have a hotel.
Even if you do get paid, you're not getting paid that much.
I mean, if you take the top, you are, for sure. Like the prize money is technically, it's more than it's ever been. But when you take inflation into account, right, you're like, okay, it's, you know, whatever it is, $10,000 is the open prize for most of these shows. Well, these guys are getting ready for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, that's not
right?
still much.
That's not even food.
No.
You know, so
exactly.
that's
I was saying, like,
that's not even
it's an
food.
expensive hobby.
It's an expensive hobby.
Exactly.
So, you know, my advice for a career is, yeah, it absolutely can be a career. But if you look at the most successful bodybuilders, they have flourishing careers after bodybuilding. Right. Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, all of these guys, you know, even Phil has his own line coming out. And, you know, it's these guys know that, you know, a lot of them have their own podcasts. It's not a standalone thing anymore. I think we can all agree you, like Dorian, you can't just leave for a year, show up, kick ass on the Olympia stage, leave for a year. Right. You know, if the judges don't see you for a year, you better have been posting some videos that they're still relevant and let everyone know you're still relevant. And I think we live in a relevancy culture, right? So that's the thing is like, is bodybuilding even relevant anymore? The fact that The Rock is the #1 movie star, I would say absolutely. I think that shuts it down.
With his new Athleticon, it's going to be like, I feel like
we haven't even talked about that.
He's trying to bring it.
That's big bodybuilding news.
That's going to be interesting.
It's going to be major.
That may be earthquake bodybuilding news.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And the fact that sponsors are coming back into bodybuilding, like Ford, you know, and some of these other guys that have been, you know, I don't know if anything's confirmed, but these are the, you know, Monster and the names that have been thrown around, gives me hope that, okay, maybe we can bring it back.
Like maybe it'll
mainstream,
be cool
maybe it'll
again.
be televised again. You know, when I was a kid,
Right.
you know, I used to watch it on USA Network. You know, I used to watch the Arnold Classic televised.
Yeah.
Rich Gaspari won. I remember that very well. I watch it with my dad. Yeah.
Awesome.
So is bodybuilding relevant? I think so. But how do you define bodybuilding now? And it goes back to where we started this podcast. Is it bodybuilding, or are we really in health and fitness?
Right.
And now we're kind of like, they're playing this kind of judging game, and it's hard to know what direction it is, you know, especially if you are just getting like really, what am I going to do? How am I going to get into this sport? You know, I think what you said, Pete, is why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
What's your reason?
What's your purpose?
And if you have the
drive?
wrong reason, you know, I want to go step on stage and make, you know, money. Okay. Well, you know, a club might be a better option for you, right? So that's the thing. My point is that nothing is guaranteed. You know, it's not an objective thing where I lift more weights than you and I get it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's you versus me. You have strengths, I have strengths. You have weaknesses, I have weaknesses, or maybe I don't and I just crush you, you know. But it's, if you don't have a strong enough reason why you come back, it can be a very, very difficult sport, especially with the dieting, especially with the training. You know, we've had tragedies in the sport recently. A lot recently. And it's sad. You know, people should take care of their health as much as they take care of their outward appearance.
Right.
You know, and that's really what I hope bodybuilding gets back to, is there's this clear definition of what every division should look like. The winners of those divisions meet those criteria.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear to everyone, you know, and bodybuilding can get back to maybe being televised. Maybe somebody can just start out, you know, and there's enough people willing, enough companies really willing to sponsor these athletes. And that's the other thing too. You've got quote unquote athletes now, you know, that, you know, haven't really competed at all. They're athletes. I'm not saying they're not athletes, but I'm saying that they might have a few Instagram followers and a company's going to send them a tub of protein, and they're not going to send a $10,000 check to an athlete because they're sending a tub of protein to somebody that has 1 million Instagram followers.
Right.
You know, so then we get back into what is bodybuilding?
Yeah.
You know?
What is it to be successful in bodybuilding?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the answer to that is, you know, success leaves clues, and everyone has had a successful business after their bodybuilding career if they were really successful, you know, and they really set themselves up, or they just took the stage and just really made a name for themselves.
Yeah.
Tom Platz's legs.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, that's the thing is why do you want to do it? Yeah. You know, my opinion is Holly is figure. You know, I love her look. I think you encapsulate it. I don't want you to change your look that much, you know, and that's what I want. I don't want changing looks in the division. I think we need to bring it back to, you know, here's the look for this, you know. Now you shouldn't look like that person. We're not talking about like making clones, but you know, you fit the criteria of the show. And I think that will give people a lot more peace of mind going into the prep.
Yeah. Less insecurity.
Yeah,
less,
exactly.
You know.
Okay, I know if I do this, I'm going to get rewarded for this. Not, I'm going to bring in a real tight package, tiny waist, you know, super feminine, and then maybe it goes the other direction. And then you have shows that go, you know, the conditioning, and because it's a subjective thing, and there's beauty in that subjectivity too, you know, and that's the thing, it's art. And art is always subjective.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot. Better wrap it up there. Where can guys find you?
Where can guys find you, Holly?
Hey. I am mostly on Instagram at IFBB PRO _ Holly Covell, Covell.
And I am on Instagram as IFBB Pro Sean Covell, SeanCovell. And they can find us on Fitness System. Yeah, you can follow us, our gyms on Fitness System. And yeah.
You can Google us.
You can Google our name and stalk us. I don't know.
And 3 gyms now? 4 gyms?
Three currently.
Yeah, 3 that we own outright. We've got interest in other ones, and then we're working on a couple more.
On global domination.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yes, that's right.
Take over the world.
Okay, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for joining us. Reach out to Holly and Sean if you have any questions on this stuff. It's a minefield of stuff. We could talk about this all day. There's just so much involved in nutrition, and we didn't really even get into supplementation, but you know, there's a ton of stuff on that as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out.
About supplementation, don't take any until your food's right.
There you go.
Unless you have some deficiency, focus on the food. Everyone wants to. If you're walking up to a bodybuilder in the gym and asking what supplements they take, you're asking the wrong question. Yeah. You should be asking how they're eating, how they're lifting, and that's the answer It's always about the food. It's always about the training. You know, the supplements is to fix deficiencies in whatever you have.
It's the supplement.
Yeah, but your lack of muscle is not a supplement deficiency.
Yeah.
It's a
true.
training or food deficiency.
There we go. There we have it. Stop wasting your
Mic
money.
drop. And
Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you want to follow us, you can hit us up at Pharos Echo Park on Instagram. If you're in the neighborhood, we'd love to see you. We are at 1316 Glendale Boulevard in Echo Park. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel. And if you're already subscribed, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it. Please share with your friends. Please share with your family. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks, guys.